The courtroom was buzzing with quiet murmurs as people shuffled into their seats. The heavy wooden doors creaked open, letting in a stream of morning light, and the faint smell of old paper and polished oak filled the air. On one side sat a woman in a faded blue dress, her hands trembling as she clutched a worn leather purse. Her eyes, tired but fierce, darted nervously toward the front of the room. That woman was Monica Harris, a single mother fighting for her home, her dignity, and her son. On the other side, a tall, well-dressed attorney leaned casually against the plaintiff's table, flipping through a thick stack of legal documents. He looked confident, maybe even smug. To him, this case was just another easy win. After all, Monica couldn't afford a lawyer. She was supposed to lose. But then, the room fell silent. A small figure stepped forward, wearing an oversized suit jacket that clearly didn't belong to him. The sleeves hung past his wrists, and the tie was a little crooked. He was no more than 10 years old, but he walked toward the front with a calm determination that made even the judge raise an eyebrow. He stood beside Monica, took a deep breath, and spoke in a steady voice. "Your Honor," he said, "my name is David Harris, and I'm my mom's lawyer." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. The opposing lawyer smirked in disbelief, and Monica's eyes filled with tears. She reached out as if to stop him, but David gave her a small, reassuring nod. The judge, an older man with silver hair and a stern gaze, leaned forward. "Son, this is a court of law. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes, Your Honor," David replied firmly. "I've studied my mom's case every night for the last 6 months. I know the facts, and I know the truth." The judge's eyes narrowed, but something in the boy's voice kept him from dismissing him outright. "And you think you can represent her?" David's lips pressed into a determined line. "I don't think. I know." The room seemed to hold its breath. Even the court reporter paused for a moment before resuming her rapid typing. The opposing attorney chuckled under his breath. "Your Honor, this is absurd. This child can't possibly." But before he could finish, David stepped forward, placing a neatly organized folder on the table. "I can, and I will." Somewhere deep down, everyone in the room felt it. Something unbelievable was about to happen. The judge glanced at the folder David had placed before him. It was thick, full of neatly typed pages and handwritten notes in the margins. He opened it, flipping through a few sheets. His brow furrowed. "Where did you get these documents?" he asked. "I requested them from the county clerk," David said without hesitation. "Every record, every piece of evidence tied to this case. I also read every law I could find about eviction and property rights in our state." The opposing lawyer rolled his eyes. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a stunt. The mother is clearly desperate, and now we have a child playing dress-up." David's voice cut in, sharper now. "I'm not playing." He turned to face the attorney, directly. "You work for the company that's trying to throw my mom out of our house because of one missed payment. But you know, and I know that my mom never missed that payment. She gave to the landlord in cash, and I have proof." A ripple of whispers swept through the courtroom. Monica stared at her son, stunned. She hadn't told him about the receipt, thinking it was lost for good. But David reached into his folder and pulled out a crumpled slip of paper encased in a clear plastic sleeve. The attorney's smug smile faltered. "That could be anything," he muttered. David stepped closer to the bench, holding up the paper. "It's dated. It's signed by the landlord. And it's notarized, which means my mom's payment was valid. And this eviction notice is illegal." The judge leaned back, tapping his pen against the desk. The silence stretched. "Mr. Harris," he finally said, "are you aware that presenting false evidence in court is a crime?" "Yes, Your Honor," David replied without blinking. "That's why I brought the original. You can check the ink, the paper, and the signature against county records. It will match." The judge motioned for the bailiff to take the receipt for examination. Across the aisle, the attorney's confident posture slumped. He began rifling through his own documents, muttering under his breath. Monica's eyes brimmed with pride and fear all at once. She whispered, "David, how did you even—" "I told you, Mom," he said softly without taking his eyes off the judge. I'm your lawyer. I'm not going to let them take our home." For the first time since the trial began, Monica felt a spark of hope, but she also knew this was just the beginning. The company's lawyer wasn't going to give up without a fight, and her son was about to go head-to-head with a man who'd spent his life in courtrooms. And deep down, she feared the price David might pay for standing in that oversized suit, fighting grown men's battles. The judge cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Harris, since you insist on representing your mother, you will follow courtroom procedures. No interruptions, no outbursts, and you must present your evidence in the proper order." "Understood." "Yes, Your Honor," David said, nodding firmly. The opposing lawyer finally straightened, regaining some of his composure. "Your Honor, even if the payment was made, the lease states that payments must be received by the 1st of the month. Our records show," David interrupted, "that your client didn't process the payment until the 5th, but the receipt shows it was given on the 1st. That's not my mom's fault. That's on the landlord." The judge raised an eyebrow at the bold interruption, but said nothing. The attorney's jaw tightened. "And where exactly was this payment made?" "At the landlord's office," David replied, flipping through his notes. "In front of a witness, Mrs. Gloria Tate. She's here today." Heads turned as a frail, elderly woman slowly stood from the back row. She clutched her purse to her chest, shuffling forward. The bailiff escorted her to the witness stand, where she was sworn in. "Mrs. Tate," David began, "do you remember the morning of March 1st? The old woman adjusted her glasses. "Yes, I do. I was at the landlord's office paying my own rent. I saw Monica walk in with her son here. She handed over the envelope, and I saw Mr. Carlson count the bills right there at the counter." David leaned in slightly. "And did you see him give her anything in return?" "Yes," she said with a firm nod. "A receipt, the same one you just showed the judge." The opposing lawyer tried to interject, but the judge held up a hand. "I'll hear her out." Mrs. Tate continued, her voice growing sharper. "I also remember Mr. Carlson telling Monica not to worry, that everything was taken care of. Then a month later, I heard she was getting evicted. I knew something wasn't right." David glanced at the attorney's table. The man was furiously scribbling notes, his confident smirk long gone. When Mrs. Tate stepped down, the judge turned to the opposing lawyer. "Counselor, do you have anything to refute this testimony?" The man hesitated. "Your Honor, I'll need to request a recess to review this evidence." David spoke up quickly. "Or we can continue now, so my mom doesn't have to spend another sleepless night wondering if she's going to lose our home." The judge studied the boy for a moment, then said, "We'll continue." And just like that, David, a 10-year-old in an oversized suit, had cornered a professional attorney in open court. But Monica knew this battle wasn't over yet. The attorney straightened his tie, forcing a thin smile. "Your Honor, even if the payment was made on time, the tenant has a history of late payments. The eviction is based on a pattern of behavior, not a single month." David stepped forward, his small hands gripping the edge of the table. "Your Honor, that's misleading. My mom has only been late once in the last 3 years, and that was because she was in the hospital after a car accident. We have the hospital records to prove it." Monica's heart twisted. She remembered those long nights in a hospital bed, tubes in her arms, and the stress of knowing bills were piling up at home. She hadn't realized David had been paying attention back then. David opened another folder and handed the documents to bailiff. "These records show the exact dates my mom was admitted and discharged. The payment for that month was made the very next day she got home." The judge examined the papers, his eyes narrowing. "And you verified these with the hospital?" "Yes, Your Honor. I even called the billing department myself." The courtroom erupted in quiet chuckles, not out of mockery, but in disbelief that a child had gone to such lengths. The attorney's face flushed. "Be that as it may, the landlord has full authority to choose whether to renew the lease, and they have decided." David cut in again, his voice calm but firm. "The landlord doesn't have the authority to break state law. And state law says you can't refuse to renew a lease in retaliation for a tenant asserting their legal rights," which is exactly what happened here. A murmur of approval ran through the room. Even a few jurors shifted in their seats. clearly impressed. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Harris, you seem to have done your homework." David nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. I had to. My mom works 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. If I didn't help her, who would?" Monica swallowed hard, her hands gripping the purse in her lap. Pride swelled in her chest, but so did fear. Every word David spoke brought them closer to the truth, and closer to angering powerful people. The attorney adjusted his papers, looking flustered. "Your Honor, this is turning into a sideshow. The boys' arguments are emotional, not legal." "They're both," David said quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "The law is supposed to protect people like my mom. And if it doesn't, then what's the point of having it?" The judge said nothing, but his gaze lingered on David longer than before. The air in the room felt heavier, charged with something no one could quite name. It was becoming clear. This wasn't going to be an ordinary case. The judge tapped his gavel lightly, not to silence the room, but as if to collect his own thoughts. "Mr. Harris, I'll allow you to continue. Present your next piece of evidence." David reached into his folder and pulled out a small USB drive. "This is a recording of a conversation between my mom and the landlord's assistant, taken 2 weeks ago. My mom told him she still had the receipt and was willing to fight the eviction. The assistant admitted the payment was on time, but said, and I quote, 'The company wants the property for new tenants who can pay more.'" The attorney shot to his feet. "Your Honor, that recording is inadmissible without proof of consent." David was ready. "State law allows recording if at least one party consents. My mom was that party. It's legal." The judge gestured for the bailiff to take the USB. Moments later, the quiet, tinny sound of voices filled the courtroom speakers. Monica's voice was shaky but clear. "I have the receipt. I paid on time." Then another voice, male, sighed. "Doesn't matter. They want someone who can pay more. This is how it is." A hush fell over the room when the audio stopped. The judge's jaw tightened. "Counselor, do you care to respond?" The attorney shuffled papers aimlessly. "Your Honor, even if that is genuine, it's irrelevant to the central claim." "No," the judge interrupted, his voice firm. "It goes directly to motive." David seized the moment. "Your Honor, my mom isn't just fighting for our home. She's fighting for everyone in our building. If they can do this to her, they can do it to all of us. And if we don't stand up, they will." Monica blinked back tears. She had thought this was just about keeping a roof over their heads. But David's words made her realize it had become something much bigger. The judge looked down at the boy for a long moment. Then, with a sigh, he turned to the attorney. "Counselor, this is not looking good for your client. Do you wish to proceed to closing arguments or request a settlement?" The attorney's lips tightened, but his eyes betrayed him. He was losing, and he knew it. "Your Honor, I'd like a short recess to consult with my client." "Granted," the judge said, tapping his gavel. As the opposing lawyer hurried out of the courtroom, Monica knelt beside David. "How do you know all this? Where did you even learn it?" David gave her a small smile. "I read every book in the library about tenant law, and I watched a lot of court cases online." She hugged him tightly, whispering, "You're my miracle baby." David's eyes were steady. "No, Mom, I'm your lawyer." When the recess ended, the attorney returned with his client, the landlord himself. The man's face was red, his jaw clenched, and he wouldn't look in Monica's direction. The judge wasted no time. "Counselor, have you reached a decision?" The attorney cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my client is prepared to drop the eviction and renew the lease for another year under the current terms." Gasps erupted in the courtroom. Monica covered her mouth, tears instantly spilling down her cheeks. David simply stood there, hands at his sides, calm as ever. The judge raised an eyebrow. "That's a sudden change of heart. Is there any additional condition?" "No, Your Honor," the attorney said quickly. "We see no reason to continue this matter." David took a small step forward. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The judge nodded. "I appreciate their decision," David began. "But I think this court should make a record why this happened, so other landlords know they can't bully people out of their homes just to make more money. My mom's not the only one this has happened to. And it won't stop unless people know they have rights. The room went silent. Even the court reporter glanced up for a moment, her fingers pausing on the keys. The judge looked at David for a long time before speaking. "Mr. Harris, you've done something remarkable here today. You've stood up to injustice with nothing but the truth and your own determination. I will make sure the record reflects exactly what happened, and I hope others learn from it." He tapped his gavel once. Case dismissed. A wave of relief crashed over Monica as she pulled David into her arms. Reporters and spectators rushed forward, some snapping photos, others asking questions. But David kept his arm around his mother, guiding her toward the exit. Outside the courthouse, the sun was warm and bright. Monica knelt down, looking her son in the eyes. "David, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," he said softly. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe, and that we still had a home." She kissed his forehead, holding him close. "You gave me more than that. You gave me hope." They walked down the courthouse steps together, the city buzzing around them. People pointed, whispered, and smiled. Some even clapped quietly as they passed. David didn't care about the attention. He had done what he came to do. And though he was just a little boy in an oversized suit, that day, in the eyes of everyone who saw him, David Harris was a lawyer,